Thank you for tuning in to the Journaling with PT podcast. I am your host, artist, PT Russell. I had a wonderful time just soaking up everything screenwriting from the wonderfully prolific Mr. Bob Saenz. Please stay tuned to our conversation. You're listening to the Journaling with PT podcast. I am your host, artist PT Russell. This is a podcast that highlights creative voices and emerging artists from all over the world. Please stay tuned for a conversation with Mr. Bob Saenz. Hello, everyone. If you are a fan of Lifetime and Hallmark movies, we have a treat for you. Today, prolific screenwriter, author, and actor, Mr. Bob Saenz joins us. Welcome to the podcast, Bob.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've done a lot for Hallmark and some for Lifetime, some for GAC Family. I've had films in the theaters and films on Amazon and Netflix and Peacock and all kinds of places.
Congratulations. I saw some of your work actually on Tubi as well, and Folsom and
Okay, that's a surprise.
Roku.
Good.
Yeah, you should check it out. You're all over.
Okay, you're telling me something I don't know. That's good. Nice way to start a podcast.
Yes, extracurricular activities is on Tubi as well. That's where I watched it.
Oh, okay, good.
Mm-hmm. I just put it in my search there on my Roku television, and it popped up in all the places where it was. So I said, okay, well, it's easy to find, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's on Apple, and I think it's on. I know it's on Amazon, but I didn't know it was on Tubi. That's good.
Yes, it is very good because Tubi's doing some things. They're
They
amazing.
certainly are.
Oh yeah, so not to be understated at all. How is movie going in Tennessee? I was very curious about that. In terms of the theaters and the crowds of supporting theaters locally.
I went to see a movie on Friday with a bunch of friends at a theater. We went to see a movie called Sight about an ophthalmologist who lives here in Nashville.
Okay.
And his groundbreaking work with free groundbreaking work with around the world with people who can't afford to have their eyes fixed, especially children. Okay. And it's a pretty good movie. It's got Greg Kinnear and a couple other good people in it, but it was a very good movie and we enjoyed it. There were people in the theater for a Friday, and that was good, but school's out too. And I'm not real enthused about what's happening as far as movie going into theaters from what I've been reading.
Right.
And it's kind of scary, but I think a lot of the big movie companies have brought it on themselves by making stuff available way too soon after it's been in the theaters. When we used to, I'm going to date myself, but when we used to have Blockbuster and DVD, and not DVDs, but VCRs, and you had to go rent the movie didn't come out for 3 or 4 months after it left the theaters. And so you knew you had to wait that long to see it. You would go to the theaters to see it if it was something you wanted to see. But now, the Fall Guy comes out and they're upset that people didn't go see it as much, but the people also knew it would be available for them to watch at home in 2 weeks. And lo and behold, it was.
Yeah, it's a bit too fast, and there's no suspense or anything. They're just waiting there. Oh, okay, well, we'll just get it when it comes. And
Well, also, a family of
mhm,
4 going to the theater is $100 now, and
yes,
and and can be even more if you're starting to, buy expensive popcorn. And so it becomes it began the economy isn't that great. So it becomes a choice. And if I can watch it at home with the kids on a a 60-inch screen in my family room, then maybe I'm going to do that.
yeah, there definitely has been like this tectonic reconfiguration of movie watching. And I don't, what can we do about it? The streamers are taking front stage, basically.
I think that you're going to see IMAX big IMAX theaters are going to show really amazing things that are good for IMAX, and a few other theaters that are available, and I think everything else is going to be available to you watch on your phone or on your iPad or on your television at home.
Yeah, a lot of theaters here have closed, unfortunately, in the drive-in and here in
Well,
Ontario.
COVID didn't help.
No, it didn't. Yeah, it did not.
And so, people get out of the habit of doing things too. They find out how convenient it is, especially during COVID. They found out how convenient it is to just watch stuff on their TV. And they're buying bigger TVs so they can
Mhm.
enjoy the experience more.
Very true. I mean, the trades have been lamenting, especially since Furiosa and, like you said, The Fall Guy hadn't done as well as they anticipated. But there have been films that have done well, like the Planet of the Apes film, uh, and Dune, of course, has done very well worldwide. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel, don't you think?
Oh, there are always going to be films that catch on that people, water cooler films that people go, this is pretty good. And
Mm,
Planet of the Apes has a pretty solid, base of fans who like those movies, and part of the problem with Furiosa was it was a Mad Max movie that didn't have Mad Max in it. And there are
right.
a lot of Mad Max fans. I go back to the original Mad Max, which was 40 years ago. But it's and prequels aren't anything that people really like that much either.
It doesn't seem so. Even like with Phantom Menace, the Star Wars prequels that were not very well received as I would thought they would have been.
Well, I just think we're already there. We don't really need to know how we got there. Let's do
Right.
something different. And so you got prequels, and you've got. I think there's a little bit of fatigue
Hmm.
when it comes to number two and number three and number four, and I think people are kind of hungry for something new and different, although nobody knows what that is.
Right. You don't know what's going to hit, like the Oppenheimer, the Barbenheimer phenomenon that happened. I don't know if that can be replicated right away.
Well, I think it could be, but you would
Hmm.
have to have a studio who that wanted to take some chances,
Right.
and they're very, very right now risk averse.
Yes,
So
I'm sure. Hmm.
you find that all the interesting films are now kind of low budget movies that are people are doing some really interesting things, and they're doing well,
Yes.
and but they're not doing well in theaters. They're doing well online, and they're doing well on the pay to see them
Right.
on online. But there's a shift going on now that includes the fear of AI, and there's a shift going on now with the audience, the way they watch films, and there's a shift going on now in in the thinking of a lot of production companies and studios and producers in thinking that they overproduced in the last 5 years, that they made too much, and they're cutting way back, like 60% of their slates.
Yes. And so this has a trickle-down effect to the screenwriters and persons
It
like
has a
that.
trickle-down effect to the entire
Right.
industry. It has
Yes.
crew and directors and writers and anybody that's been involved in it. Uh, Netflix, was, let's bring out 35 new things a month. And now they're saying, you know what? We really don't need to do that. We can bring out 6 really good things every month and not, or 4 really good things every month and not have to, make all those things and give people too much choice.
Yes. Yes, there is hope. There is hope. We have to believe that and be optimistic about this, right?
Oh no, I'm optim. I mean,
Yes.
good, good, good films and good shows are still going to rise to the top. They're just going to be lower budget because there isn't money available to do anything else.
Right. Wow. Yeah, well, that's the reality, right, that we're facing. So,
You can be very creative
mhm.
with a $1 to $5 million budget. Now that it's digital, you have to understand that 60% of the cost of making a film used to be film, the actual film using 35 millimeter film, and now everything is 68% less because you're not using film anymore. So $1 million movie now was a $3 million movie 18 years ago.
Right. Hmm. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Now, you have a novel, Bob, called
I do.
Jessica's Vampire Diary.
I do.
That's your latest. Can you tell us a little bit about that and whether or
Dur-
not you're considering perhaps adapting that for the screen?
During COVID,
Mm.
and we were locked down, and I was sitting around thinking, I don't want to write another script because I don't know if they're going to ever make movies again. I don't know what's going on. My wife said to me, I love having you be, here but we have a backyard that could be remodeled, or you could write something. And I said, oh, I think I want to write something. And
Easy
I
choice.
decided to write a novel. It's been on my bucket list for most of my life. When I was 13, I started my bucket list, and it has all kinds of whitewater rafting the Colorado River and climbing a mountain and playing golf in Scotland and doing just a whole long list of things that I wanted to do in my lifetime, which I've crossed off a majority of. One of the
Excellent.
things on that list was to write a novel and get it published. And so I needed something to write about, and the first script that I ever wrote was this story. And I went back to it and I said, I think this is going to be a good novel. So I took the first script I ever wrote and I turned it into a novel, and through what I can only describe as a complete miracle, a New York publishing company asked me if they could publish it. And I told them, absolutely, you can. And it got published in November of last year, and it's done pretty well. But the publisher told me that anytime you are a first-time writer and you have a new novel, that it's a marathon, not a sprint, that it has to catch on. And it's starting to catch on, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. The name got my attention. It reminded me of Vampire Diaries. I think it was a series.
Yeah.
And is it any similar in theme to that at
No,
all? Besides just
no,
the vampire bit? No
no. Well,
romance?
it's an actual diary.
Okay.
What Bram Stoker, when he wrote Dracula, wrote that book, and a lot of people don't realize it because a lot of people haven't read it, as a diary. It's a diary. And I have a Van Helsing in my book. Thank you to the fact that it's in public domain now, that I thought it would be fun to write this book as a diary. So it's the diary of a 14-year-old girl, Jessica, who has an adventure in the small town she lives in with some evil entities and some help from a young Van Helsing. And it's was written to be purely written to be kind of partly exciting and mostly funny.
Okay.
And it's not your normal vampire book by any
Okay.
stretch of the imagination.
All right. So do you have, or are you able to read just a little bit for us?
I have a copy right here.
All right. We'd love
All
to hear
right, let's
a
see.
little
Should I read from
tease.
I'll read from the beginning. Remember,
Okay.
this is not my voice. You know, I don't sound like a 14-year-old girl, and unfortunately, I never have. Um, I really am sorry there was such destruction. It couldn't be helped. Stinky told me early on that property damage was probably going to be necessary. I try to be responsible. I really do. I know people work hard for the things they have. Dad and Mom tell me this all the time when I break something of theirs. So the wreckage bothered me, honest. Not as much as almost losing my family. Now that I think about it, I think what Stinky really said was anytime you're dealing with the undead, it's going to get messy. For the record, and this is kind of official, at least for me, my name is Jessica Trueheart Scott. Yeah, Trueheart. It's from my mom's family someplace in the past. I'm not sure exactly when. She told me once, maybe a great grandfather who was in a war and did some stuff. That sounds right. Still, it sucks as a middle name, no matter where it came from. Mom blamed grandma, but I'm old enough to know mom signed the birth certificate. Still, um, whoops, you disappeared there. You there?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to get you back here. There you go. Is that enough?
Yeah, that is intriguing. That is very intriguing. There is this thematically, I'm thinking Stephen Kingish, but like you said, there's a comedic.
My friend
Mhm.
and the late great Norman Lear, who read this story,
Mhm.
said it was Steve. Oh, what's her name? It's Nancy Drew meets Stephen King and Monty Python was how he described it to me.
Okay, he read it in its entirety.
So that's yes.
Mm-hmm. But just that excerpt there, I can tell it seems very, very intriguing. I'm telling you, I would be interested in reading it for sure, and I will read it.
Well, it's available in paperback. It's available in Kindle, ebook from anywhere, and it's also available on Audible.
Okay, so that's general audiences.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Well, looking forward to that. And I had asked before if you would consider in the future, perhaps, adapting that for the screen, writing a screenplay for it.
I have a screenplay for it because I
Wow.
adapted the book from the screenplay, but now the
Right, right,
screenplay
right.
is to me no good because I came up with so many fun things for the book that were never in the screenplay that I would just have to redo it. So I will. Yes, I would love that to happen, but I'm hoping that somebody will option the book and give me a chance to write it. I would love it if they optioned it as like a 6-episode series is what my agent and what the publisher and my manager are all hoping, but we'll see. It's very strange out there right now.
Yes, it is. And you mentioned the word optioning for those who are unfamiliar with that term. What exactly is that optioning?
It's like rent to own.
Okay.
It's when they option your script, they rent it from you from a certain amount for a certain amount of time, like 12 months, with an option with a re-option of another 12 months usually to see if they can raise the money and get the stars and do what they need to do to get it made. Find somebody that wants to show it on their platform. That gives them time to really work hard and do it. And if they do find someplace, they exercise that option and buy whatever your project is, and there's a predetermined amount of money they have to pay you to buy it, and you do that in the option contract when you negotiate your option contract.
Okay. And is optioning still very viable right now, or is it
All they
something that?
do. Nobody
Okay.
buys anything outright anymore
Okay.
because getting something made is so difficult and really a miracle that they option it to see if they can make it. If they can't make it in the 24 months that they tried to do it, then you just receive it back and you get all your rights back.
Okay, but you don't have to give the money back.
No, you don't have to give the money back. But it's usually not very much money.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair. Well, it's good to know about the optioning part, because you hear this term a lot, and if you're not familiar, then it seems like it's Greek. All right.
Yeah, it's a way for them to have complete control of the project so that you can't show it to anybody else. And they can take it to somebody and say, yes, we have the rights to this. You don't have to worry about anybody else coming on the backside thinking they have the rights to it. And we can make this together, or we can not make this at all, which happens a lot on options. I've optioned a lot of scripts and gotten most of them back. And I've optioned some scripts and sold them. So, and I've optioned some scripts and gotten them made. Extracurricular activities is a good example.
Yeah, so you have 19 films and counting, right? Including the dark comedy
20.
extra 20,
Yeah.
20 and counting, because you're in flux.
Well, I have
Which is incredible.
One that I can say is very much in play still right now. And another one that I think is doing something, but I'm not sure. And then a bunch of and another one that I'm finishing up that people are waiting for. And a couple of other projects that people are wanting me to work on, but they haven't got complete funding yet to hire me.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed extracurricular activities. So if anyone who hasn't seen it, you should give it a watch. The cast is incredible. The lead actor, I think his name is Colin Ford. He plays Reagan Collins. He
Yes,
is so much fun to watch. Really is.
he was a joy to watch. Love the character, and I was on set most of the time because I'm actually in it. So
I didn't peep you in it. I have to look again.
oh no, I was the weatherman on the TV.
Okay. Okay. I saw your name in the credits, but I missed that. I have to go over it again.
Yeah, no, when he was watching the weather guy on television, that was me.
Mhm. Yeah, the film is kind of fast paced. It's a lot of moving scenes and a lot of moving parts. There's always a lot of momentum. So I kind of missed a few things the first watch. I'll have to look at it again.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. It was a fun experience, and I wrote it originally as a calling card script, which is a script you write not as much to get made as you write to have people notice what you can do and see what you can do as a writer and how creative you are and hear your voice in the writing, and it worked. People love the script. It's the anti-Hallmark movie, and it got me my first Hallmark job. So it's calling card scripts are a really interesting thing. I wrote it. I talked to a producer. I was an actor for many years and still am. I mean, if somebody calls me and wants me to do something, I'll do it. But I'm not actively going out and looking for acting jobs. But I was working on a television series in a very small, tiny part in a series called Nash Bridges with Don Johnson.
Yes, I remember.
And one of the producers and I were talking about writing, and he was talking about calling card scripts and told me what he he thought, and I decided to write one, and extracurricular was that script. And it opened every door in Hollywood for me, every one. But nobody wanted to make it because of what it was about. And that was fine with me until, it got optioned 8 different times by 8 different production companies, producers, one studio, Universal. And before David Wilson and Jay Lowy made it in 2019. And that was 18 years after I had written it.
Goodness. There is hope, everyone.
So
there is hope.
Yeah, I never thought it would get made personally. And the fact that they made it, and they made it so close to what my script originally was, it was very satisfying.
Yeah. How does one get 20 films produced when many emerging screenwriters are struggling to have one film made? This is amazing. Please show us the way of the force, Mr. Bob Saenz. How do you do that?
I think one of the ways that you do that is you understand how the business operates. You become a business person. Your screenwriting job is your business, and you understand how films get made. That's why I always encourage writers to get on sets as extras or as PAs or whatever you can do to get on a set and watch how all of this works. I've written a book called "That's Not the Way It Works," and it has done extremely well as a screenwriting book because it's mostly about the business of screenwriting, how you operate your business as a screenwriter. Most people think they write something and that's it, but that's not it. You have to understand how everything works, and you have to understand that 95% of a screenwriter's job is writing something for other people. If I had to live off my own spec scripts, I'd be working at Home Depot. So you need to learn that writing assignments and writing jobs are your bread and butter. Adaptations of novels, doing rewrites of other scripts, writing ideas that producers have. It's a combination of a lot of different things, and those are the jobs that keep most writers in business. So that's what I do mostly. Producers call me and say, I have this script and it needs to get fixed. What can you do? And they send me the script, and I tell them what I think I can do. And a lot of times they hire me, and they pay me to fix the script.
Fix it.
And then a lot of times, if I change enough of it, which I get my name on the script as a writer and the film as a writer.
Excellent. How important is a good story?
It's everything. Producers buy story. They're not. Films are about story. TV is about character. Limited series is about story. Long-running television series are about character. Films are all about story. You need to write a coherent, good story that makes sense. Even if you're making up a world, you still have to have the logic that causes an audience to stick with it and want to know more.
That's great advice. Great advice. Now, what are a few prerequisites of determining the adaptability of a short story, a novel, or so as a screenplay?
All it takes is one producer to read something you've written and decide to champion it. Decide, this is what I want to make next. This is my next project. That's all it takes. It takes one. And you have to just connect with one person. There are going to be people that just don't like a script you've written, and then there's going to be somebody on the way far other side who thinks it's the best thing they ever read. It's so subjective that you just have to write the best story that you can possibly write, and then get out there and market it and hope there's that one producer who says, wow, I found my next film. That's how it works.
This is so rich. Thank you. I hope you guys are taking notes. May you please underscore how crucial it is to have an effective query letter.
A query letter.
Yes.
I've read query letters that were 2 pages long, and they talked about why they wrote the script and what motivated them and how it was going to win an Oscar and that their mom loved it. And you can go on down a big, long list of things that you're going to miss out if you don't buy this. If a producer or a producer's assistant or whoever's reads the emails to start with takes longer than 25 seconds to read your query letter, it goes in the trash. Ooh. It's all about the log line. In my book, I have a sample query letter, and I've had people every week. I get a letter or an email or a note on one of the social media platforms that from somebody who says, I used your template, your query letter template, and I've never gotten more responses that were positive. I used to write these big, long opuses, and I did what you suggested, and all of a sudden I'm getting responses and people are wanting to read my script. It's all about brevity. They don't care why you wrote it. They don't care if it's going to win an Oscar. They don't care if it's the best thing. You don't tell people how they're supposed to feel about your script. This is going to be the best script you've ever read. It's going to make you laugh until your sides burst. It's all this stuff. You don't tell them how they're supposed to feel. All you give them is your great log line that says, here's what my story is. Would you like to read it? That's all they care about.
And so that's
and if the log line strikes them as something they're looking for or interested in, they'll request the script to read it. And then your script needs to live up to the log line.
Okay. That's not the way it works. A no-nonsense guide to the craft and business of screenwriting. That's the name of your book. And where can folks find it?
Anywhere books are sold.
Okay.
It is on every digital platform. It's if you can go to your local bookstore, and if they don't have it, they can order it. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. It's basically one of those everywhere books.
Okay. Curious about whether or not treatments are still necessary in the business, and when can they be advantageous?
When they ask you to write one.
Okay.
I am not a big fan of treatments because it's another layer of things you can send to them that they can reject your script without ever reading it. So when they ask me if I have a treatment, I always say no.
Okay.
Because I want them to read the script. I don't want them to read a short story about the script. I want them to not have a layer of another wall that I have to get through in order for them to get to the script. It should be log line script. So now if I'm writing a script for a production company and one of the steps that they want me to take is a treatment, then I'll write a treatment when they're paying me to write a script for them, and one of the steps is a treatment. Yes, I'll write a treatment, but for my own personal spec scripts, I never write a treatment.
Yeah, I've heard some people say that treatments, how important they are. So I thought I'll ask you.
They're important. If you need it to write your script, if you need to have a treatment in order to get the story out so you can get it into the script form, then that's what you do. You just don't have to make that treatment available to producers because it's one more step where they can say no before they get to the script.
Okay. And the best way to prepare a spec script? Do you have any advice?
Uh, have a great story, and don't speed yourself through writing it. Nobody ever asked me in all these years I've been doing this. No producers ever asked, how long did it take you to write it? You take your time and do it well, and you rewrite it and have 5 or 6 drafts of it before you ever think about sending it out. You don't send out a first draft of anything, because the first draft is never as good as it's going to get after you've done rewrites and after you've put it away for a while and look at it with fresh eyes.
Right. Well, for those who are listening, take your time. That includes myself.
Yes, no, this isn't a fast industry. There's no instant gratification in screenwriting. Everything takes a lot of time. So you want to get it right. You want to get your script to the point where you have a chance for that one producer. I read too many scripts that people send out that are nowhere near ready to be sent to anybody. And you have to be vigilant and careful and realize that every word that you write in your script matters. And that my definition of screenwriting is you write the best story you can possibly write in the least words possible.
And I've heard about the first 10 pages. Is that something that you
Well, it used to be
champion?
the first 10 pages. Now it's about the first 3. When you've got an assistant or a producer who's got 25 scripts for their weekend read, they are not going to read all of them. They're going to read the first 3 pages of most of them and then say, nope, this isn't for me. So there's a lot of, you want to, the problem with a lot of, and I just read 3 scripts and they all had the same exact problem. And that problem was that they decided to set up their story before they started it. And you have to start your story on page 1. And then anything you want as far as information that you wanted to set up, you have to give out as you tell your story.
That's great advice.
You can't take 5 pages to set up your story and then start it. Story needs to start on page 1.
Yeah, there's a lot of all of this purple prose before they get to the crux of things.
My character is, and this is him getting up in the morning and shaving, and then he's looking in the mirror and being contemplative about, what kind of day is this going to be and all this stuff. And then, his mom calls and you learn that, he has 2 left feet or whatever it is. And then you start the story on page 5. And by that time they've put it down.
Right. Can't have that. All right. Well, that's great to know. And reading a lot of screenplays is important for those who are emerging screenwriters.
Yes. Read as many screenplays as you can read. And the only rule in writing your story, okay, and writing a screenplay is get the formatting right. Use good screenwriting software. Get the formatting right. And here's something about formatting. Grammar and spelling are part of formatting.
Yes, sir. Make sure that's a part of your process.
I've heard, I've had people, I've come back to people and say, that your spelling and grammar are all wrong in these first 10 pages. And they go, well, don't they just fix that for you? Don't they just look at it and decide whether they like it or not, and then they just fix all that stuff? And I go, no. They put it down because it's hard to read.
Oh.
You want to make it easy to read, super easy to read. It's not prose. You don't want to use words that they have to look up. You don't want to have complex sentence structures. You want to make it as simple and easy to read as you possibly can, because what they're buying from you is your story. From that point on, what goes on the screen from your story, you write what you want your film to look like. You write what you want to see and hear on the screen in the simplest words possible, and then you trust that the director and the art director and the set designers and the actors and all the other people will do their jobs and make it look kind of like you hoped it would look.
Beautiful. This is such a blessing, Bob. I'm so happy you're here. Before we wrap up, where can folks find you on the internet, Mr. Bob Saenz?
And X or Twitter or whatever they're calling it nowadays, at BOBSNZ, which is my last name without the vowels in it. And I'm on Instagram with the same at, and then I'm on Facebook as just Bob Saenz.
Okay, I'll have the information in the show notes as well. You also have a collection of Christmas films, Bob, that you've had produced on various
Yes.
channels. I think A Dash of Christmas was just released this past Christmas. Yes?
Yes, it was. It did very well. Christmas films are an interesting. I got my first job at Hallmark based on the producer reading Extracurricular, which is said that earlier, and I learned about how to write in a box, how to write creatively in whatever box that the brand that these cable networks have. All of them are a little different. Lifetime's is different than Hallmark's, and JC Families is different than both of theirs. But they have a brand. They have a customer they want to write for, and they have an audience they need to write for. And they give you the parameters that you have to create within, and you get to. They let me be pretty creative within those parameters, and so I've been very fortunate, and I've gotten to write some pretty fun Christmas movies that have done real well. Is it my favorite thing to write? No. I mean, I like writing my own specs, but do I enjoy writing them? Absolutely. They're fun. They're fun to try. It's a challenge to do well and have them be interesting. The Dash of Christmas got great reviews this year because it was different. It wasn't the same boy meets girl who hates Christmas or he hates Christmas and then they learn to love Christmas. But it was a different kind of story, but it was still a romance. But it was different, and it did really well because it was different. And I choose to try and do some different things. I have another Christmas film that's out there that's, I think, getting ready to get made, I hope. And it's different also. It's again, not people who hate Christmas, but it's a very nice romantic comedy that takes place at Christmas time.
Is there a particular formula for writing a Christmas-themed screenplay, or, like you said, do you have to write creatively in a box?
There used to be, I think. But now that people like Netflix and Amazon and Hulu are all deciding they want Christmas films too, it's widened a little bit, and Hallmark has loosened their brand considerably. So you still have to watch them and look at how they operate and what the parameters are with them. Watch a few of them and get an idea of what's expected in them. And you can get a pretty good idea pretty quickly how they operate and what the audience expects.
Okay. So there's
I don't think
They,
anybody's ever written a book on. There may be one out there.
Christmas, a Christmas movie template.
Well, I don't think. Well, I'm not a believer in templates because I think if you write to a template, it gets rid of all your creativity.
Yes. Yeah,
And therefore, you write cookie cutter stuff, and cookie cutter stuff doesn't sell.
There's a belief that cookie cutter stuff does sell because there are articles on this type of thing. I'm not agreeing or anything. I'm just saying they're out there that advocate that specifically. That okay, well, this is what
They
people are
do,
accustomed to.
and I work with producers multiple times a week, and they're not looking for cookie cutter stuff.
Right.
I'm sorry. I mean, yes, but these
crazy.
are all people that are pushing their own agenda of buy my cookie cutter template.
Right. Very true. Very true. Well, so this is the Christmas movie, A Dash of Christmas, and it's not Christmas anymore, but people can still watch it. Where is
Oh,
it
you can
available?
watch all my Christmas movies somewhere. I did one for Lifetime a couple of years ago that was based on my Cuban Christmases with my grandmother. That we set in New Mexico instead of in the snow country, and it turned out to be a very popular movie.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations on all of your success.
Thank you.
Yes. So, all right. So we have one more question left
Okay.
For today, because I know I've kept you very long.
Oh
I can
no,
talk.
I'm fine. I set aside plenty of time, so we're fine.
All right. So I have 3 bands from the 70s. I want you to choose one and why. Okay.
All right.
All right. Queen, the Eagles, and Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they're funky and they have soul, and I'm a huge Tower of Power fan, and I've seen Earth, Wind, and Fire live many times, and I've seen Eagles live too, and they were fantastic, and I love their music, and I never got to see Queen, but I liked a lot of their music, but for pure funk and pure enjoyability, Earth, Wind, and Fire wins that one by a landslide.
Okay. I know you play as well. Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
I played in a band for many, many years called the B-Sides. And
Okay.
we played a lot of very strange 60s and 70s rock and roll.
You said very strange.
Well, we played a lot of songs that people knew, but a lot of bands don't play because they're not 3-chord songs.
Okay.
And we did. There were some really. I fooled everybody. I was there, I think, just to be there. But the rest of the musicians in the band were astoundingly good. And we had a great run. We didn't play bars. We played a lot of street fairs and at wineries and at car shows and lots of bigger venues. And we opened for a couple of people a couple of times. But we lost our keyboard player to cancer. Larry died, and it kind of caused the band to kind of just drift away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry about that.
We're all still close friends, and it was a great experience. And I played guitar for many, many years, and I play mandolin too. So
Neat.
it was an experience that again, it was one of my bucket list experiences. Play it and play in a band for a big crowd, and I was able to do that. So it's it was fun. It was wonderful, and it was another time in my life, and it's over now. I still play. I still pick up my guitars and play some, but I'm not playing out. I live in Nashville now, and the quality of the musician here is just you can't even begin to realize how spectacular it is. So
I can imagine.
it's I'll just go listen now.
That's great. Oh, Bob, it was a joy to share space with you today. I learned so much, and I'm sure the listeners would also have learned a great deal about screenwriting, about you and your projects. What's on the horizon for Bob Saenz?
I'm working on a series
Mhm.
that is moving forward. We'll see what happens. Um, a lot of people seem to think it's something that's never been done before, which I am very happy about. I have a horror movie out there that is garnering some interest, but we'll see. It just
Mhm.
depends on what happens in the future with budgets and money available. But there's a very well-known director who very much believes in it, and we'll see if they can get it going. I have a Christmas movie out there that the producer is telling me might go pretty soon, but I don't believe in mights. So I just until it's actually greenlit, I don't tell anybody about what's happening. And I have to write a sequel to Jessica's Vampire Diary that the
There we go.
publishing company has asked me for a sequel, and I'm going to write it. I'm about
Oh,
35,000 words into writing the sequel.
you are a machine. Well, hopefully you wouldn't mind coming back on and sharing more about the art of
I would
screenwriting.
love to do that again. Anytime you just let me know.
All right, thank you, Bob. Sign, sign everywhere, sign. Bark another sin, we're breaking my mind.
We never
Thank
did
you.
that song either.
You didn't?
No, we didn't.
How could you not?
Yeah, very easily, I think. No, we didn't. We didn't do that song.
I should have. Well, it was great talking to you, and
We did do Green Eyed Lady, which a lot of bands
you
did.
did?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. All right. Well, looking forward to talking to you very soon.
you
All right,
too,
Bob.
and thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Journaling with PT podcast and an informative conversation with Mr. Bob Saenz on all things screenwriting. Look him up on IMDb. His information is in the show notes. Check out ptrussell.com. Subscribe. Thank you so much for all of your support. Really appreciate it. Continue to take good care of yourself. And as always, please stay tuned.